Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome dear learners. This is a video for the subject of education, for the course of Bachelor's in Education and for the paper of Child Development and Learning. This video is going to discuss about understanding learning, and here we are going to discuss the socio-cultural and cognitive process. This video has been recorded by Dr. Aerum Khan. The course coordinator for this video and the presenter or the subject matter expert is Dr. Aerum Khan from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. The academic expert or reviewer for this video is Professor Jasim Ahmed from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. This video is produced under the project DTH Swayam Prabha channels of MHRD, New Delhi. Hello my dear learners. Today we are going to have a discussion on understanding learning, and in this lecture the focus will be on socio-cultural and cognitive process. I am Dr. Aerum Khan, Assistant Professor at IASC Faculty of Education, Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. So let us start the topic of today. So the objectives of this session will be to discuss the socio-cultural theory of cognitive development, to critically analyze the theory given by Vygotsky in comparison with the theory given by Piaget, to describe the relevance of components of the socio-cultural theory, discuss the importance of this theory in classroom settings. So the work of Lew Bygotsky has become the foundation of much research and theory in cognitive development over the past several decades, particularly of what has become the theory which is very popular as the social development theory. Vygotsky's theories stress the fundamental role of social interaction in the development of cognition, as he believed very strongly that community plays a central role in the process of making meaning for a child. So unlike Piaget's notion that children's development must necessarily precede their learning, Vygotsky argued that learning is a necessary and universal aspect of the process of developing culturally for an organism or for a human psychological function. Vygotsky has developed a socio-cultural approach to cognitive development. He developed his theories at around the same time as Jean Piaget was starting to develop his ideas. That was the year of 1920s, between the years of 1920s to 30s. Both were actually contemporary. But unfortunately, Vygotsky died at the age of 38. And so this was the reason why his theories are incomplete, although some of his writings are still being translated from Russian. We can say that no single principle can account for development, as we have seen in the principle of Piaget, the equilibration, where there is an account for development. So individual development cannot be understood without the reference to the social and cultural context within which it is embedded. Higher mental processes in the individual have the origin in the social processes. So now let us see that how Vygotsky's theory differs from that of the theories given by Piaget. And actually there is a difference which you can find in these two theories in many ways. So on the account of socio-cultural context, Piaget has given very little emphasis. On the other hand, we can see that Vygotsky has given a very strong emphasis on the socio-cultural context. Then comes the constructivism. So cognitive constructivism, or the theory of cognitive constructivism, is given by Piaget. We all know this. But Vygotsky gives the theory of social constructivism. Then comes the stages. So Piaget has given strong emphasis on stages of development, whereas according to Vygotsky, there are no general stages of development, which is actually proposed by him. So after that, we come to the key processes in development and learning. So on account of the key processes of development and learning, Piaget actually says that there is equilibration, schema, adaptation, assimilation, and accommodation. So all these are the key processes. Whereas Vygotsky says that zone of proximal development, scaffolding, then language or dialogue are the tools of the culture. Then on the account of role of language, Piaget has actually given very less emphasis, or very minimal account can be seen in the theories of Piaget. So language provides labels for children's experiences, or you can say that Piaget says that this is the egocentric speech, whereas Vygotsky gives a lot of emphasis, or major emphasis, on the role of language. So he says that language plays a powerful role in shaping the thought of any individual. Then regarding the teaching implications, Piaget supports that children to explore their world and discover knowledge. So, according to Piaget, children can explore their world and discover their knowledge on their own. But Vygotsky says that establishing opportunities for children to learn with the teacher, or you can say that the more knowledgeable other or more skilled peer. So the concept of more knowledgeable other, which can be in most of the cases the teacher, was introduced by Vygotsky. So in this way, the teaching implications of both these theories, or both these personalities, differ from each other. So students, we have already discussed in detail about the theory of Piaget and Vygotsky in separate lectures. So all these theories, I suppose, are known to you, but there are certain things which are of separate importance, and we need to discuss them, because right now we are discussing the socio-cultural theory of cognitive development. So there are certain things which are actually emphasized by Vygotsky, which we will be discussing here in this lecture. So the first point is that Vygotsky places more emphasis on the culture affecting cognitive development. So this basically contradicts Piaget's view of universal stages and content of development, because Vygotsky does not refer to stages in the way in which Piaget has actually defined the stages of development of an individual. So we can say that Vygotsky assumes cognitive development varies across cultures, whereas Piaget states the cognitive development in mostly universal uh, kind of phenomenon, which is across the culture. So Piaget actually says, or thinks that there is no kind of impact of culture on the development, on the cognitive development of an individual. Now, the next point is that Vygotsky places considerable emphasis, basically very much emphasis, on the social factors contributing to cognitive development. Vygotsky states that cognitive development stems from social interactions, from guided learning within the zone of proximal development, as the children and their parents co-construct knowledge. They actually construct the knowledge with interacting with each other. So in contrast to this, Piaget maintains that cognitive development stems largely from independent explorations in which children construct knowledge of their own. So here both of them are actually at two different ends. They have got nothing in common in this point. Then for Vygotsky, the environment in which children grow up will influence how they think and what they think about different things. So this is something where Vygotsky has emphasized a lot on the environment, on the extraneous features, which where the child is actually growing. So they play a lot of important role. Lots and lots of important roles are played by these circumstances, these environments in which the child is growing up. Then the next point is that Vygotsky places more emphasis on the role of language in cognitive development. So basically, Piaget and Vygotsky have got one other contradiction where, according to Piaget, language depends on thoughts for its development. What does this mean? That thoughts come before language. For Vygotsky, thought and language are initially separate systems from the beginning of life, but they merge at around 3 years of age, producing verbal thought. And Piaget is not saying this, but Vygotsky is emphasizing much more on this verbal thought, which he considers as the inner speech. For Vygotsky, cognitive development results from an internalization of language. So we can see that Vygotsky is placing a lot of emphasis on the development of language, and he says that cognitive development and language development both are not separate from each other. Both of these things are basically the uh, two sides of the same coin. Then let us see the next point. According to Vygotsky, adults are an important source of cognitive development. What exactly he means by this? Adults, according to Vygotsky, these adults can be the more knowledgeable others or those who are having some sort of extra knowledge. So adults transmit their cultures, tools of intellectual adaptation that children internalize. In the contrary to this, Piaget emphasizes the importance of peers as peer interaction promotes social perspective thinking. So here also the thought is different. The thought process, the way of expression is different both from for Piaget and Vygotsky. Now let us discuss the different tools of intellectual adaptations or the effects of culture. We have seen that Piaget has given a lot of emphasis on the sensory abilities or motor reflexes. So, like Piaget, Vygotsky claimed that infants are born with the basic material abilities for intellectual development. We have seen that Piaget focuses on different motor reflexes and sensory abilities, but Vygotsky refers to the elementary mental functions. What are these elementary mental functions which are given by Vygotsky? These are attention, sensation, perception, and memory. So eventually, through the interaction with the socio-cultural environment, these are developed into more sophisticated and effective mental strategies or mental processes, which he actually Vygotsky refers to as the higher order thinking skills or the higher mental functions. Then Vygotsky refers to tools of intellectual adaptations, and these allow children to use the basic mental functions more effectively, adaptively, and these are the culturally determined tools. So basically, the memory mnemonics and mind maps are few of those examples which can be referred as the tools of intellectual adaptation. Vygotsky basically sees the cognitive functions, even those carried out alone, as affected by the beliefs, values, and tools of the intellectual adaptation of the culture in which a person develops. And therefore, the socio-cultural uh, basically determinants are these, which are very much important for the development of the cognitive level of a child. So the tools of intellectual adaptation therefore vary from culture to culture, as in the memory case, or in case of the different type of scenarios in which we can follow the development of the cognitive process of any individual. So now let us see the different type of social influences on the cognitive development, which are actually discussed by the different people. And here we are discussing about Piaget and Vygotsky. So just like Piaget, Vygotsky believes that young children are curious and they are actively involved in their own learning and the discovery and development of the new understandings. And these new understandings can be regarded as schema, as it is regarded by Piaget. But Vygotsky placed more emphasis on social contributions to the process of development. On the other hand, Piaget has emphasized more on self-initiated discovery. According to Vygotsky, much important learning by the child occurs through social interaction with a skillful other person or the more knowledgeable other. So this teacher or the more knowledgeable other may model the behavior and provide the verbal instructions for the child. Vygotsky refers to this as the cooperative or collaborative dialogue. So this child seeks to understand the actions or instructions provided by this more knowledgeable other. At times, this more knowledgeable other can be any of the parent, the mother or the father, or a more knowledgeable peer, or even in cases teacher. So this internalize the information with the help of the more knowledgeable other. The child internalizes the information, using it to a guide or basically to make a regulation in the performance of this child. So as this child becomes more competent, the parent allows the child to work more independently. According to Vygotsky, this type of social interaction involving cooperative or collaborative dialogue promotes the cognitive development. So, in order to gain an understanding of Vygotsky's theories on the cognitive development, we have to understand two very important terms. One is mentioned earlier also, but we will be discussing it in detail, which is the uh, more knowledgeable other, or the MKO. And the other one is the zone of proximal development, which is commonly called as ZPD. So let us discuss the more knowledgeable other, or the MKO, first. So this more knowledgeable other, or MKO, is somewhat the self-explanatory term. It refers to someone who has a better understanding or a higher ability level than the person or this learner or this child with respect to a particular task or a process or understanding of the concept. So although the implication is that the MKO may be a teacher or an older adult, this is not necessary at all in many of the cases. So many times we can see that a child's peer, or mm, uh, in case of adults, there can be other individuals of the same age, or maybe in few of the cases of younger age, can be the more knowledgeable or more experienced others. So this is something which is very much variable. So in fact, we can see that the more knowledgeable other need not be a person at all who who is of the elder age or of the same age. So in some of the places, we can see that there are different trainers who are kept for training the individuals of the older ages even. So this is something which is given, this concept is given by Vygotsky, this more knowledgeable other. So now let us see the next concept. So this concept of the more knowledgeable other is integrally related to the second important principle of Vygotsky, and that is the zone of proximal development. So this is an important concept that relates to the difference between what a child can achieve independently and what a child can achieve with guidance and encouragement from a skilled partner or the more knowledgeable other. So, Vygotsky sees that the zone of proximal development is the area where the most sensitive instruction or guidance should be given, allowing the child to develop skills they will use their own developing higher mental functions. So basically, this is the area where the child can reach with the help of the more knowledgeable other. So Vygotsky has given the views that interaction with peers as an effective way of developing skills and the strategies. He suggests that teachers use cooperative learning exercises where less competent children develop with less, like with the help of more skillful peers within the zone of proximal development. So in this way, we can see that a collaborative learning can happen where a bit of more knowledgeable peers can be a kind of help for those children who are uh, less achievers or who are less in the understanding or getting acquainted with the exercise. So in this way, the collaborative learning can. Then the Vygotsky's concept of scaffolding is also very important whenever we discuss about his theory of the socio-cultural development. What exactly is this? So Vygotsky's concept of scaffolding is closely related to the concept of the zone of proximal development. Scaffolding refers to the temporary support given to a child by the more knowledgeable other that enables the child to perform a task until such time that the child can perform the task independently. So this particular support is given till the time when the child becomes able to do the task independently. So according to Vygotsky's theory, scaffolding entails changing the quality and quantity of support which is provided to a child in the course of teaching sessions or the deliberations, or you can say that in due course of teaching. So the MKO or the more knowledgeable other adjusts the level of guidance in order to fit the student's current level of performance. So this teacher or this more knowledgeable other actually understand that uh, with the with this process of scaffolding, he provides the support to the extent to which the child is requiring, and then the support is actually day by day removed so that the child can become uh, independently doing the task on his own. So in this way, the scaffolding works. So we have seen already that Piaget and Vygotsky have different type of views regarding the development of language, and Vygotsky has emphasized a lot on language development. The terminology of private speech is given by Vygotsky, and let us understand that what exactly this private speech is. So you just think of that. Uh, have you ever talked to yourself? And if yes, then why? So the chances are that this occurs when you are struggling with a problem. So trying to remember something or at the time when you feel very emotional about a situation. So children also talk to themselves. Piaget interprets this as an egocentric speech or a practice which is engaged in because of a child's inability to see things from another's point of view, from any other person's point of view. So, according to Piaget, this egocentric speech is the terminology which is given to this type of phenomenon. But Vygotsky believes that children talk to themselves in order to solve their problems or to clarify their thoughts. So, as children learn to think in words, they do this loud thinking or loud kind of uh, practice before eventually closing their lips and engaging in private speech or inner speech. So this is something, this particular terminology of private speech or inner speech has been given by Vygotsky. So thinking aloud eventually becomes the thought accompanied by the internal speech, and talking to oneself becomes a practice only engaged in when we are trying to learn something or remember something. This inner speech is not as elaborate as the speech we use when we are communicating with others. But then also, this inner speech is there and it is very much used by the children. So, in contrast to this, like basically, it is a contrast with Piaget, because Piaget was highly critical of teacher directed instruction, or he was believing that teachers who take control of the child's learning place, the or the child's learning process, place the child into a passive role. So further, the teachers may present abstract ideas without the child's true understanding, and instead they just repeat, and they actually try to repeat back what they heard. So Piaget believed that children must be given the opportunities to discover concepts on their own. So we have seen that like it was previously stated, that Vygotsky did not believe that children should reach to a higher cognitive level without the instruction from a more learned individual or the more knowledgeable other. So he basically believes that if for the cognitive development of a child, there is a requirement of scaffolding or the requirement of the help or support of the more knowledgeable other. So we can see that in the both theories, there are certain aspects which contradict to each other, and but we can say that both of these theories contribute to the understanding of ourselves in terms of that, actually internalize that how children learn. So both of the theories play their own role in developing this understanding of the cognitive development of children. Then now we have to see what are the classroom applications of the socio-cultural theory. So the contemporary educational applications of Vygotsky's theory, which is the reciprocal teaching, used to improve students' ability to learn from the text. So in this method, teachers and students collaborate in learning and practicing the different skills, and there are four key skills, which are summarizing, questioning, clarifying, and predicting. So these skills are actually practiced in the classroom. So the teacher's role is in basically this process is reduced, and here the teacher is just a kind of support or a kind of facilitator who actually plays her role, and over the time this role is reduced, and the child is on her own able to do all those cognitive processes. Vygotsky's theory of cognitive development on learners is relevant to instructional concepts such as scaffolding and apprenticeship, in which a teacher or more advanced peer or a more knowledgeable other helps to structure or arrange a task for a person who is new to this task or to this work uh, with a very successful way. So this more knowledgeable other plays a very important role for the newcomer. Then the Vygotsky's theory also feed into the current interest in collaborative learning, suggesting that the group members should have different levels of ability. So more advanced uh, people or the most advanced friend can help the less advanced member of the group, and this can take this person who is less advanced to the zone of proximal development by the help of this more advanced peer or the more advanced knowledgeable other. So this is something which is applied in the classroom as well in a very proper manner. So with this, we have reached to the summary of this particular topic. So let's quickly see what we have studied today. So we have seen that the socio-cultural theory of cognitive development, what exactly this theory is. We have critically analyzed the theory given by Vygotsky in comparison with the theory given by Piaget. And we have seen that just like Piaget, Vygotsky believes that young children are curious and actively involved in their own learning and the discovery and development of new understandings or schema. But Vygotsky placed more emphasis on social contributions to the process of development, whereas Piaget emphasized self-initiated discovery. We have also discussed the relevance of the components of the socio-cultural theory and the concepts of zone of proximal development, more knowledgeable other, scaffolding, and private speech. We have discussed the importance of this theory in classroom settings, where we saw the contemporary educational applications of Vygotsky's theories of the socio-cultural cognitive development in the form of reciprocal teaching, used to improve students' ability to learn from text. So in this way, we have seen uh, this theory of socio-cultural development or the socio-cultural theory of cognitive development. These are few of the references and the consulted link which were actually referred while developing this lecture. You can even go through these and learn more. And this theory of socio-cultural development is very much important for a student of psychology. And I hope that this discussion has been referring to all those important points and it becomes useful for you all. With this, I will take the leave from you all and see you in another lecture. Till then, thank you so much. You were watching a video on understanding learning, and this lecture discussed about the socio-cultural and cognitive process. This video lecture was recorded by faculty at home during the national lockdown period for COVID-19 pandemic using minimal technical resources. Technical errors, if any, are unintentional and may please be ignored. For any queries with regard to this lecture or broadcast, kindly send your email to techsupport@dth.ac.in. Thank you so much.